Welcome back. What are the ways that you might be apologizing for your body? If you aren't sure, body positive activist and New York Times bestselling author Sonya Renee Taylor joins us live to break down what she calls radical self-love. Sonya! Welcome to BBL. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing well.
We're doing well. Sonya, let me ask you this. Tell us about the conversation that inspired your movement and your books, which we have here, The Body Is Not an Apology and The Power of Radical Self-Love, which is like hard for me to even read, and the Journal of Radical Permission, so I need to read them. How did that all start?
So about 12 years ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was sharing with me that she might have an unintended pregnancy. I'm the self-professed nosy friend, and so I asked her questions about her sexual health practices. And my friend shared with me that, she had cerebral palsy, and she felt like her disability already made it difficult for her to be sexual, and so she didn't feel entitled to ask this casual partner about condom usage.
Oh, wow.
And I had this moment of deep heartbreak for her, and then without thinking, the words just sort of came from me. Your body is not an apology. It's not something you often say, sorry for my disability. And when I said it, it stuck with her, but it stuck with me as well. I was clear that there was a message in there about the ways in which I too had been apologizing for my body, that there was a message in the ways that we all have. What would it look like if we stopped doing that?
Speaking just to that, what are some other ways that we might be apologizing for our bodies?
We live in a world that tells us every day that there are good bodies and there are bad bodies. There are worthy bodies and unworthy bodies. And we all internalize those messages. So there are ways in which we are apologizing, of course, for our size. We apologize for our age by dyeing our hair. We apologize for our race with skin lighteners or by taking on a certain affect that we think will meet the dominant sort of perspective of how someone should speak. We apologize for our sexuality by remaining closeted. We apologize for our gender by not living into the fullness of our authentic self-expression. All the time, we're told there are okay bodies and not okay bodies, and what do we need to do to conform or try to become an okay body. And the idea of the body is not an apology is that there is no wrong way to exist in a body, that every body is inherently divine and worthy and enough just as it is.
That's hard to even clear for me.
Sonya, I could talk to you or listen to you all day, okay? This is amazing, and a lot of people need to hear from you. If we do find ourselves apologizing for our bodies, how can we practice radical self-love? And can you explain to everyone what that means?
So for me, radical self-love is inherent. It's how we arrived on the planet. You've never seen a self-loathing toddler. You've never seen a toddler who's like, I just hate my thighs, right? Like what we see are we see beings who are in love with themselves and in love with other bodies and find all of the ways in which we exist as really magical. We all arrived here that way. And so radical self-love, again, is the foundation of how we arrived here, that inherent sense of enoughness. And the work of sort of returning to radical self-love is learning to recognize all the messages that we've received that deny that and returning ourselves back to our truth. I call it a thinking, doing, being process. The first thing we have to do is raise those thoughts to consciousness. The second thing we have to do is then say, what would I do differently if I chose not to believe those things anymore? And the repetition of those new thoughts and those new actions create a new way of being, a radical self-love way of being. And I think Radical Permission, which is the most recent book and project that we're doing, is about how do we unlock the permission to take those big, risky, but beautiful steps that allow us to live into the fullness of ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, what if somebody's already taken that step, fortunately, unfortunately, and changed their body through plastic surgery? Is it too late for them to practice radical self-love?
Well, no, I think that we're always able to practice radical self-love in the real moment. It is very rarely about what we do and almost always about why we do it. And so if you have changed your body in some way and the energy behind it is I'm trying to align myself with today's beauty standard. I'm trying to cash in on what the system says is valuable right now. The challenge with that is that is an ever evolving, ever moving target. We never land on it. Right now we are watching celebrities undo their BBLs. We're watching them reduce the size of their lips. We are watching them change hair color. We are watching people decide that the new beautiful thing is not what it was yesterday. And so if we're relying on that external vision for how it is we find our enoughness, we're going to be struggling for a lifetime. And so whether you've changed your body or you've not changed your body isn't the question. The bigger question is, what is it that I deeply believe about my own value? And can I learn how to find that value from the inside out rather than from the outside?
Ooh, Sonya, we need more of you. Please, DBL Nation, you can continue this conversation by picking up copies of The Body Is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love, along with Sonya's journal of Radical Permission, a daily guide following your soul's calling. Sonya, honestly,
one of our best interviews ever.
Seriously, I want my daughter to read your book one day when she's old enough. She's only 5.5, but as soon as she can read, she's reading your book.
I'm good.
Thank you, Sonya. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Excellent.